So we are at the Red Cola writing one of the writing rooms or here at in Venice, California, and really happy to have the Spitfire guys here. So we've been around since 2001. Been doing trailers since maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. I think one of our first projects was Live Free and Die Hard, which was a fun thing to do. And at the time, we were one of the people who did not know that the music and sound for trailers are done sort of independently from the actual movies and from the score for the movie. And next thing you know, we were doing trailers full time, creating tracks, creating sound design, elements, different parts of this kind of Lego building blocks of creating this stuff, compositions, custom compositions, all kinds of things. It's been a lot of fun. It's a wild ride. Still learning as to how the whole thing works. I think one of the big aspects about doing things for trailers, which is basically advertising, it's an advertising field, is inventing and reinventing things, kind of, hopefully breaking new grounds. And sound design was one of the new grounds that was being broken in when we got started. And somehow we just rode that train and ended up creating a bunch of stuff that was useful in this world. And that's some of the stuff that's on the trailer Giant, and some new stuff that might be on one of the future projects that we do together. Well, we did these, Live Free, Die Hard, and that worked out. It was like a week's worth of work. And then they called us in for another project, and then for another project. And then a friend of ours said, hey, you can actually create these things and distribute them to the companies that do this kind of stuff. And that's what we did, and created these CDs with trailers in mind. A lot of trailers get cut to existing music. So music is the first part of the puzzle that gets used. So there's sort of an anticipation as to what will be presented and what will be, how to do things and so forth. And, learning how to think the way an editor would think, and producers, with cuts, with introductions, with different form and structure of a trailer. A typical trailer form is, a trailer has an intro where things are exposed, and then the development, and then what's called the back end, where things are banged, to oblivion in many cases. The trailers and the editors and the producers kind of reinvent things and try to find new ways of doing things. We worked on a project that we talked about where we were given access to scores from various movies, from top-end composers, Hans Zimmer, Alexandre Desplat, Klaus Pedel, bunch of guys. And we could take some of this stuff and sort of fit them into the trailer format and add additional content that will make it more usable for the editors again and producers who create these things. And that was a lot of fun. It was unnerving working with these tracks and working with this stuff, and we can play some of that stuff down the line. But so there's that. There's a whole new direction with trailers these days of kind of recreating existing songs and reimagining them with trailers in mind. So that's been a lot of fun, and kind of never know who's gonna knock on the door with what kind of request. Perhaps I can show a little bit later something that I worked on Monday, which was Eddie Vedder's song that was getting trailerized and getting this trailer treatment. Um, so all kinds of stuff going on, you know, from the big orchestral things that are all kind of a derivative in some way of Carmina Burana and a few other big epic pieces, you know, from the classical world. Those kind of things. Many times, funnily enough, we don't even know what we're working on or what it was going to be for. There's all, you know, the studios are very conscientious of who gets to see the material, you know, what the project is all about, and so forth. So there's a lot of sort of mystery behind a lot of these things, you know, and the non-disclosure agreements, et cetera, et cetera. One of the pieces that we kind of retooled for trailers was a Hans Zimmer piece from the score for Sherlock Holmes, and they used I think a zithar, which is a very specific, kind of very recognizable sound to the. It brings in certain images, you know, from gypsies, from circus and that kind of stuff. It's kind of ethnic-y sounding. The challenge was actually taking those sounds out so that this other music that was in there could be applied in a broader set of circumstances. So it can be applied for many different trailers versus only the ones that could use this kind of a flavor. So that was a fun thing to do, an interesting thing to kind of actually do. Shall we show some of that stuff? Actually, so here's just a little bit from the track, which is 3.5 minutes long, which is kind of way longer than what most trailers are, and it has different sections that some of them are usable for trailers, some of them maybe not so. The track itself is perfect. It's not like we were making this better, you know. It was just applying it for a certain set of circumstances, for a certain usage. So. and so forth. So all these little things are the edits of the, taking out the zithar and kind of working around it.
Yeah.
So, we started with that, and then just added a few things, a little bit more strings, just to kind of, again, beef up some of the stuff, because in trailers, for the most part, you want things a little over the top. Editing spots, editing points, I call them anchors, kind of emphasis where, spots where you can use to change the direction of your story or make a statement, make a, emphasize a point, So yes, we try to put those in. And that's kind of a big part of doing this with something like a track like Hans Zimmer's track, just adding these kind of amplifiers for certain moments, which in a film would probably be way too much. For trailers, you want them because they just kind of emphasize stuff. I think the idea, I always tell people that we work with, the idea is, if you're listening to, if your TV is on and you're washing dishes and you hear a particular sound or a particular, composition in the background on the television, that you immediately know that this is a trailer for a particular thing. That's the idea, to me, making something instantly recognizable. The kind of most obvious, or one of the most obvious examples, is the trailer for Inception, where these big low brass things were, used, and they're just brilliant, and people were trying to recreate that effect for a long time afterwards, and reinvent it, and kind of took the whole trailer music world in a certain direction for a while, of recreating these things. Like, how do we get that, which is fun. It's reinventing the wheel in many ways, or many times, saying something in a different way, in a new way. So, giving emphasis to things, giving weight to things. One of my big things is being able to say the least amount, the most amount of information, whether it's emotion or action, with the least amount of means to do it. That's what I strive for today, these days, and that's what I've learned, and that's what I think the editors and the producers and music supervisors in the trailer industry strive for, and which there's a lot of thought behind that process, and I constantly think about these things as I make my tracks and as I guide other people in creating these, how to kind of get that balance, say the most with the least amount of means. It's contrast. It's going against the expectations, and those were certainly, those are a few trends of kind of approaches for this stuff, where, hell's breaking loose on the screen, and you have this gentle, beautiful melody. I think Johan Johansson, they used some of his music for some of these things, which just worked brilliantly. Absolutely. It's, constant innovation, which is what I find exciting in this world, and so many other companies that are doing the same things, our friends and colleagues and competitors, just creating super cool new things, And part of the process is trying and failing. You try, what if we do this? And then nobody reacts to it. you know, and you just kind of dust yourself off and try something else and something new and whatever. Just letting it loose out there. I think it's really cool stuff, and seeing what other people do with it, but also giving ourselves a incentive to continue to innovate, you know, because this way everybody has what we have created for all these different projects, and we gotta step on it, come up with some new stuff. So this came in literally last week, and I had a meeting with a music supervisor, and it's an idea. Who knows if this is gonna go anywhere, but they seem to be excited about the possibility of this. And it's I don't know what this is for. It's an Eddie Vedder song, and I'll just, you know, play a little bit of it. It's basically him. I have a problem with the server. This just keeps popping up. I'm sorry about that. I'll just put it in there. I think it's just Eddie and ukulele, and he's playing the song. It's beautiful.
I saw the light today. 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 Silence loud and wind so long.
So beautiful song. The music supervisor thought that they wanted to have a little more of a build towards the end, just with strings and some brass. So I gave them actually a version on Friday or Saturday, and didn't fly. That I was kind of, you know, I guess she used the word, it was dancing too much with the ukulele. It was kind of mimicking the ukulele. I always try to blend things in so it feels like it's part of the track. And then we went with the kind of a more legato string version, and the Olafur's new release on Spitfire was just perfect. And I was excited to try it out. So I'll just kind of cut to the part where it all comes in.
The quiet building in the dark. Surrender to the game. I saw the light today. The silent scream that we're apart. I dare to dream for everyone. I bleed, but I won't break. I saw the light today. I saw the light today. I saw the light today.
That's that one. And we'll see. They, you know, the supervisor liked it. Now they have to play it for the editors. If they like it, then they'll probably cut to it, and they have to play it for the studio. And if the studio likes it, then it might see the light of day in some trailer for something. Sometimes it's literally kind of like what your interest is that day. You know, many things happen, and you're like, "Ooh, I haven't used this thing in a while. Let me play around with that." You know, sometimes there's specific requirements, like for the Eddie Vedder track. The reason I ended up purchasing, you know, some of the Spitfire libraries is because of the smaller ensemble size. Because I tried bigger, you know, I tried Albion, tried bigger sounding things, and they just seemed too big and kind of disconnected from this intimacy that that the track had, you know. So I was like, I think this should, you know, this could use something smaller. I've had some live recordings with strings in Bulgaria through a friend of mine, and it was a very positive experience, and I look forward to doing more of that. You know, we can accommodate chamber size orchestra even bigger. You know, it gets into the usages of things, and you know, when you're working on a film, you're given a budget and you do something for that film, and then you're done with that. You know, the whole point of kind of what we are doing from the business end of things is being able to reuse things. So, you know, finding a balance of how much you spend on recording a piece of a track and how much that's going to cost down the line is something that we just have to look at. We just released this thing called Revenant. We didn't know there will be a movie called Revenant coming out around the same time as this thing, and we had already committed to graphics and a lot of this stuff. And it's, you know, it's an example of making something and hopefully finding a home for it down the line. You know, the idea behind Revenant is horror. So there's a lot of sound design, some orchestral stuff, and even the orchestral stuff is processed, so it has this degenerated sound quality to it. So I'll play that.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna do one more time, and I'm gonna play the the mastered version. You can still see where all the things are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But we had this mixed and mastered by a great mixer who works with trailers. So and that's one of the things that we that I am learning over time and constantly debating and discussing is the level and the volume of your tracks. A lot of things in trailers ended up getting really pushed up volume-wise, mastering-wise, energy-wise. But I've learned from the other side, from the engineers who mix trailers, the final trailers, that this can often create problems on their end, because if things are just over-compressed and over, you know, normalized and maximized and pushed up, they cannot turn it down. They cannot take that away. So they always push for, you know, give it to us kind of reasonably mastered, and we can always kind of push the level of things up. So I had some great discussions with Greg, who mixed this stuff, and learned a lot. So this is that track, Greg's mix. I studied film composition, and when the whole sound design thing first came in, I was kind of resistant because I wanted to write the orchestral things and big themes and all that stuff, and just by the circumstances that kind of presented in front of us, I ended up diving into this world, and over time I realized how cool of a tool this whole part of expression is, creating new sounds. It's like coming up with new colors for a painting. There are so many things that are parallel to what an orchestra does. Your cluster rises, orchestral rises are now, created by sampling packing tape and pitch shifting it and stretching it out and automating the pitch of the sound, adding all kinds of other processing, distortion, and this kind of stuff, and you end up with something that is new, that didn't exist before, and hopefully exciting. Trailer companies, editors, producers kept coming to us for, asking for more of the organic sound design. It took us a while to realize and understand kind of what is it that they were asking for, and it was a combination of found processed sounds, found sounds that we would process and stretch and pitch shift and distort and do all kinds of stuff to them, or editing sounds that are already existing synthesizer sounds that are presented in a way that still feels organic, because there's synthesized sounds that sound very synthesized, and that's not what they want. So we try to find these little things and little gems. It's a funny thing. There's a lot of happy accidents in this stuff. You sit and you work for hours or days sometimes, coming up with a bunch of stuff, and then I've learned to look for gems in the kind of least expected parts. You'll work on a sound, and I bounce everything to audio, and then the last little part of the tail ends up sounding very interesting, and I'll take that and I'll make something new out of it. I'll normalize it again, stretch it, and do things to it, reverse, a lot of stuff that now through Trailer Giant I can do just straight in the software, which is really cool, in the user interface, which was kind of a ulterior motive behind teaming up with you guys, and just the entire thing got a whole new life to it. And many lives, actually, because it can be used over and over and over. There's so many new combinations now. And it's all at your fingertips. It's all there in the instrument, which I find it's brilliant. My advice is, listening to a lot of trailers, trying to figure out what they're all about. I still listen, if a week passes by and I haven't heard a bunch of trailers, I feel behind. Because it's a fast-paced universe, And when you think you've kind of heard it all, somebody comes up with a new way of doing things, expressing things, like the contrast we were talking about earlier, and all that stuff, like the trailerized covers of songs, things like that. So just keeping the picture in mind of what these new things are and how to create them, and then hopefully innovating, coming up with new things that are innovative. A big part of it is the place. I can't tell you how many dinners at home I've missed, so I can stay here and be there for these guys who tend to call at 5 or 6 p.m. at the end of their day, needing something ready by tomorrow morning so they can get working on things. So being reliable, being available is a big deal. There's many companies in Los Angeles and around that primarily deal with trailers, and I know they take works from others. We work with other composers, and that's been a interesting, fulfilling part of what we do. So, it's a combination of these things, It's a lot of luck and a lot of patience as well, There's, you work on a track and it might be a year or 2 years before it gets licensed, Some don't. You just have to be okay with that and kind of try to figure out why and learn from it.